Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our review for Moana. You're welcome. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, gaming, and all things Geekcentric, and this is our spoiler-free review for Moana, the latest live-action adaptation from Disney of the beloved animated film from 2016.
Mahalo nui loa to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for inviting us out early to see this movie.
For review. Now, of course, I can't do this alone. I am joined by my fellow co-host, the demigod himself, who actually has a sick flow. Like, his flow is legit. Mr. Darcy Hudson. Hello.
Hello. And yes, mine is not a wig. I have some bad hair days though where it does look like one. I will say that.
Maybe, but I feel like Dwayne would be jealous that you could actually have like a Maui style luscious locks of hair. Because at times it was weird to see him with a wig on his head, which we'll talk
the
about.
Best wig.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into the movie, like I was saying, this is another live action adaptation. We've had many of these over the years. I wanted to get your opinion, your take, and not just within Disney. Like, how are you feeling about these films that we grew up with, we might have seen years ago as animated, that are now transitioning into this live action format? Are you enjoying it? Is there anything that stands out as like an opportunity? What is it?
I mean, to me, the biggest opportunity with retelling these stories that are so beloved over the generations or whatever is the fact that you can maybe add something new to the story. At least that's what I'm looking forward to when they are retelling something that is as recent as a Moana only 10 years ago, or even How to Train Your Dragon being something we watched when I was in high school, at least when that one came out. So it doesn't feel too long ago that we need to be going back there, unlike some of those older Disney classics that I do understand maybe being a more modern update, like the Snow White, that some parts worked, but some parts didn't, type thing.
Yep.
So,
yes,
I mean, I'm all for retelling stories if you can add something new to the story. Again, I think that's what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Like, I think
For these live action adaptation movies to succeed, one of two things needs to be happening.
Enough time has passed that the original can be reintroduced for a new generation. So like you said, films like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, even The Jungle Book, or the remake expands on the story in a meaningful way that the animated really couldn't do.
Films like Mufasa or Cruella, or even the way they made changes to Lilo and Stitch, are all excellent examples of trying to do something a bit different. Because if they're not doing one of those two things and they're really just a shot for shot,
we're just getting to see these moments in live action rather than animated.
Now, I will say, in specific instances,
when that's brought to life, it does land to a certain degree. So I guess, where does Moana fall? Let's find out. Before we do, let's get to the synopsis of this film.
Is that necessary, really? I mean... Yeah,
recent. I know they have it here, so I'm just going to read it. In Moana, Disney's live-action reimagining of the beloved Oscar-nominated animated adventure, Moana answers the ocean's call, and for the first time, voyages beyond the reef of her island of Motunui with the infamous demigod Maui, on an unforgettable journey to restore prosperity to her people. The film is directed by Emmy and Tony Award winner Thomas Kail.
Now, this version of Moana features original songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Opataya Fuahi, and Mark Mancina, and an original score composed by Mark Mancina. The film stars Dwayne Johnson, Catherine Laga, Renee Owen, Frankie Adams, and John Tui.
Audiences can experience the brilliant cinematic sights, sounds, and songs of Moana exclusively in theaters on July 10th, 2026. Okay, let's kick things off, Darcy. Let's get into talking about the look and feel, because we're obviously talking about an animated film that's being adapted into live action. What were your thoughts?
I mean, it looked great. Anytime that we're not really focusing on Maui, that is, I think the world was really captured well. I mean, the island was so full of life. When we get into the more fantastical elements, when they're on the ocean adventure, I think that everything looks great. Like the Kakamoras, Tamatoa, it all really worked for me in that regard. But again, when you look at the main characters, Moana, she was fantastic. And then Maui, it was just odd seeing The Rock with that wig that didn't look the greatest at times, and then the weird bodysuit that also didn't move the way it should, and also
Yeah, it
didn't have
looked like it moved
nipples.
like a suit. 100%.
Yeah, it took me out of it a bit when we were looking at them and they were having a conversation. It's just like, it's a bit goofy seeing this guy in a suit, but the overall feel of the movie is the same. Again, it feels like Moana because it's the same story, and the heart is all there, and the new cast members doing a fantastic job of bringing these characters to life. And even Dwayne does a different spin on Maui this time around, where he's not over the top in your face animated. He is a more subdued physical person in that regard. Right. So it was cool to see that. But I think, again, if you liked Moana, you're gonna like Moana because nothing has really changed. You're just getting a whole new flavor of it, and a lot of heart is going into it this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Much like the animated film, the live action adaptation puts Polynesian culture front and center. It's grounding the story in what feels authentic as well as respectful. And again, from a production design point, from the costuming, it's all just breathtaking. They weaved in the cultural traditions. It was very thoughtful. Everything just felt very well crafted in terms of like bringing that world, that animated world, into the live action. All of these elements kind of come together to help the film feel more of like an interpretation while still capturing, again, the cultural aspects, the warmth, the heart, the sense of adventure the audiences are going on. Some of the visual effects are very visual effectsy, you know what I mean? It's what you expect. The other part of this whole look and feel is the music. The music is exactly what fans will be hoping for. These are the songs we've known, we've loved for years, only 10 years apparently, and they've translated beautifully into live action. And I think
Catherine Laga delivers a fantastic vocal performance,
bringing her own personality, like her own emotion, the confidence in every song, like rather than just simply recreating the animated performance, she makes the music feel uniquely her own based on the character that she's playing and how she's interpreted it, while still honoring what made those tracks super special. So I think, again, a lot of the singing was very much leaned on her. And like you said, The Rock as well, like for Dwayne, like he did a bit of a different riff to it, but it still had that talky song style, like the Shatner, if you will. There's more of a live action theatricality to it that feels very stage play to a degree, but that's also very inspired by the animated. So it's like, it kind of stayed true to that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he knows the character, so it's going to feel the same or close to that original animated one. So the fact that we came out of the movie feeling like he did do a different take on it is refreshing. I just, the one thing I did think about when we were coming out, it would have been cool to see, again, a new character step into that role as well. Just like we had Moana pass the reins to Catherine. We had it would have been cool to see maybe Rock take a step back and let the character grow on his own.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we'll talk about it. Was there anything else in regards to look and feel that you wanted to bring up? I just wanted to bring up like one thing in regards to like the detailing on like Pua and Hey. It's really good. Even for like 3D animated animals, they didn't go cartoony. They went more traditional, kind of like a crypto, if you will, to a degree. But it this felt a little more authentic and real at times. So I did appreciate that attention to like kind of bringing them into live action and not trying to keep too much of their, cartoon personas.
Yes. Although I will say, Hey still retains that cartoony proportions,
the shape,
because there is no chicken that looks like him.
Exactly.
But it's if that Hey was like Hey was a real chicken, or if there was a chicken that looked like that. I do appreciate the texturing they brought to that face for sure, especially for some of those close-up screams we always get in these Moana movies.
Absolutely. Well, you were mentioning, let's get into performance. Let's talk about it. Let's start before we get to the Dwayne of it all. Let's talk about Catherine Laga performance. Like, she's absolutely perfect. What were your thoughts on her performance as Moana?
I think she did a wonderful job of bringing this character to live action. Again, like you were saying, when she's singing, it feels like the songs are hers and she's not just singing the songs from the movie. Like, she's making them her own, and the way she's inflecting on them, or even during the other things, she's bringing her own personality to it, where she's still has that sass and attitude, but more reserved, because again, we're not going that over the top animated style that Disney,
correct.
That's what animation can get away with.
Yes,
so it is a more grounded performance, but it feels realer because of that. So I think she did a wonderful job of bringing this character to out of that animated world.
yeah, she brought Moana to life with authenticity and feeling like it was an live action version of that character. Some things might be more subdued, things are processed more internally, right? Like you said, like animation has the ability to lean on design and the partnership of voice and animation to kind of create, elevated, character moments. But yeah, like Catherine feels absolutely perfect. She embodies in Moana. She brings the right amount of curiosity, determination, the playful quirk, but she's also grounding her performance in a lot of heart and sincerity. And I think what really works is that she doesn't feel like she's just simply, like you said, copying Alihi Carvalho's performance. Instead, she's doing something new, and she's taking Moana out of animation and into live action in a way that feels natural, feels emotional, and it's just completely her own. And like we were saying, like her singing is incredible. Like, and honestly, it's the reason why you'd want to see this movie. Every song feels familiar, but Catherine brings her own personality and emotion to each one, making those moments just feel fresh without losing what the audiences already love about them. Right. So I think she's outstanding. But you were talking about it before, man, with Dwayne Johnson as Maui. Like, he's fine. In all honesty, it feels like he kind of, as you were mentioning, he kind of pulls back from the original animated performance and brings more of a live action. And we were joking, like a bruh, what up, bruh, kind of energy to the character, like something that feels a little more contemporary. But like, again, there's still some charm there. There's moments that work, but I do wish they had taken the opportunity to recast Maui, like you said, with a new face and a new voice. And I say that as someone who loves The Rock. I haven't loved everything he's done, but attaching Dwayne to this version, I don't know if that helps this movie feel like it's standing out on its own. I almost wish he had followed Alihi Carvalho's lead and allowed a new performer to kind of bring their own voice. Like, she celebrated the fact when they announced that they were doing this live action adaptation that there was going to be a new voice, a new character, someone to bring their own personality, whereas everyone was like, oh, it's going to be her because she was already Moana. No, this is the opportunity. And she welcomed that. And I think Catherine gets to make Moana her own. And I think Maui could have benefited from that same opportunity by casting someone that was, not necessarily muscular and ripped or was the original voice. It could have been someone that added a different character and gave a different spin. And that's not to say that The Rock is the reason why this movie is like mid, but it's just more or less the idea that this could have been the difference if they had recasted that role.
Yeah, like especially if they were going to be staying as close to the source or original one as they do end up doing with this film. If they could have changed at least the presentation of the main character of Maui and maybe gone more. Again, while Dwayne is of the Samoan descent and the Polynesian culture, stuff like that, you could have gone someone who is a bit more that the Maori or the bigger, again, Maui body shape type thing, where he isn't ripped, but he's a big physical presence, and that could have gone that direction.
Like
maybe
Chief
even heard an accent. Yeah, Chief
exactly.
Tui this time around was more Maui in my head. So,
exactly. Yeah, and he looked like the chief based on his stature, also the way they dressed him and how he carried himself. Again, it that translated. Speaking about the other cast, like, beyond the two leads that we just talked about, I think everyone just delivered strong performances. The supporting cast is like they're the warmth, they're the humor, they are the authenticity that makes this world feel so believable. It's so fantastic to see such a talented and diverse Polynesian cast at the heart of this film, and I think that representation isn't just important, it's what helps the story resonate even more and honor the culture that has always been very central to Moana. And I think that is to be celebrated. And because there are quite a few performances, there is one that I know that is another returning voice.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of my favorite parts from the original movie is Tamatoa and his Shiny song. So the fact that Jermaine Clement returns and we just get a beautiful live action presentation of that again is a bit more drawn out, but still hits all the same beats and moments that you want. And again, that's a returning voice I'm happy to see, because to me, Tamatoa is just Jermaine Clement. You can't change that for me.
Yeah, and another strong performance was Renee Owen, who plays Grandma Tala.
Yes.
I think she again very much aligned with who her character was in the animated, was that beacon of inspiration and hope for Moana. You felt that relationship; it felt real and authentic, just like it did in the animated movie. And I think that the two of them were absolutely fantastic together as being the anchor of the heart for this film. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. That's all I have for performances. I don't know if there was anyone else you wanted to shout out.
I mean, I think again, John Tweed does a great job of bringing Chief Tui to life again, but
Yeah,
like the whole cast is
like
fantastic,
I
so
said,
it's hard
yeah,
to just single them
yeah,
out. So I think
yeah.
we
And
could talk
again,
forever about them.
yeah, and I think again, it just highlights again that the realness of it all just really
Yeah,
stands out.
yeah.
Okay, let's get into story, because like this is essentially a shot for shot remake of the original, which is why there isn't really any need to preface this as a spoiler free review. If you've seen the animated Moana film, you've seen this story. It's just brought to you
Hmm.
in live action. But I'll throw it to you first, Darcy. Your thoughts on the story? What'd you think?
Well, again, it's my thoughts on the story are the same as they were 10 years ago. It's a good story. I like the the way that they are able to explore Polynesian culture through the whimsical fantasy of Disney is wonderful, and I love the way that it translates so well to live action. At least this adaptation works so well in that regard, where the story still hits hard, and as you're on this journey, the different locales and fantasy parts just hit the way they're supposed to. I think so. I mean, I like the story. I think it's weird how there are parts or like a couple songs and a couple of scenes where they do add a bit to, but
Mm-hmm.
not enough that you come out
Not
here being
enough.
like, oh, that was a different
Yeah.
movie. No, it was essentially shot for shot, despite having some minor differences. So I think that's my biggest issue is that they didn't go far enough with changing things up in any regard. They kind of played it a bit too
Yeah.
safe, which doesn't
Yeah.
say mean it's bad, but it's
No.
too familiar, I guess.
Well, this is just it. This is exactly what you're talking about. I am honestly conflicted about this whole thing because part of me appreciates the approach because it positions this as another way to experience the story that already works. Right? It's
Hmm.
it's less of a reimagining and more of a different flavor, as we've described, to the animated film, while allowing audiences to experience these characters and this world through a new lens. That said, I do wish, like you were saying, it had taken a few more creative swings. Like there are small moments that hint at expanding the mythology, like the suggestion of maybe Moana and Maui's destinies may be more deeply connected. And there's just like a
Hmm.
little sprinkle of that. Like to tell you that is that's like my mind went a mile a minute on the potential opportunity of how they could expand the story from that angle, but those ideas are never explored. It felt like an opportunity to build on the original rather than just simply recreating it, and instead the film remains remarkably faithful to the animated version from beginning to end. Whether that works for you ultimately comes down to what you wanted from this adaptation, in my opinion. If you were hoping to relive the story you already love with real actors, you're probably going to be very happy. But if you're looking for something that was meaningful or expands and maybe interprets the original slightly different, you might be disappointed by that. But yeah, I feel like it's really going to come down to the audience, like
Hmm.
if they appreciate the fact that this was a shot for shot or if they wanted something different. I know when I walked out of um How to Train a Dragon, I know we're talking about a different studio, but it's the same mentality of reimagining a animation into live action. I wanted them to do something more with the story. I thought there was an
Hmm.
opportunity there that they didn't necessarily capitalize on in the animated that could have been expanded and opened up. And my hope is now that number two will be different from the second
Hmm.
animated film in the opportunity to stray from it. Like maybe, yeah, okay, the first film is the one that's plays beat by beat and reminds you, but then the second one is where it deviates off course. But we'll have
Hmm.
to wait and see for that. But maybe if there's a second Moana, that's the trajectory I would hope to see.
Well, I mean, yeah, you also mentioned the fact that, the hinting of Moana and Maui's tied
Hmm.
destinies and how
Hmm.
knowing what happens in two, at least the animated two, and how there is more potential for that connection to be
Yeah,
defined. You think it'd be cooler if they leaned into
and set
that
it up.
potential future setup.
Yeah,
Like again, you don't
yeah,
need to give me that blatantly, but to lean a bit more into it would have been cool.
yeah,
So again, it's a
absolutely.
missed opportunity to add to Moana. Again, it's a great way to see the story. It just doesn't add much new
Yes,
to it. So yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, with that said, I think it's time that we get to our final thoughts, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 hearts of Tafiti. Darcy, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, if you like Moana, you're gonna like Moana. I already said it earlier. I feel weird trying to judge this movie for anything other than being a faithful retelling of that adaptation. While I am upset that it doesn't go to new places, it doesn't mean the story is bad or any different than or any less enjoyable than it was the first time around. So again, with the only issue being The Rock's odd looks at time. Again, his performance was even passable for the fact that he did to try change it up. It just wasn't new enough for me. So I guess that's where I'm a bit let down.
Mhm.
And again, as much as I love the first animated movie, this one does probably sit a bit lower because I had higher hopes for it. So for that reason, I'll be giving this one 4 out of 5 Hearts of Tafiti. And again, 4 out of 5. I still really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, you really enjoyed
so
it.
it's hard
Yeah.
it's hard for me to not like it. Again, I have so many young friends with young kids and people who grew up watching
sure.
that animated one. So it's ingrained in my life. So I have a hard time not liking it.
Well, yeah, and I definitely look at it through that lens too. Like my daughter loves Moana. So,
Mhm.
you know, to imagine that she's going to see this and basically it's going to be the exact same story that she already knows and loves. It'll be interesting to see how she interprets it and if she feels like she's more comfortable with one or the other, if she welcomes the other one. Do you know what I mean? Like she loves the
Mhm.
live action Aladdin and she'll watch the animated one. Don't get me wrong, but she will definitely sometimes choose the live action over the animated. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the audience. Like I'm not saying a 3-year-old, but I'm just saying that's kind of the option that we have to look at when you're looking at these live actions is like, what do you want? Do you want to feel nostalgic and watch that original? Or do you want to watch something that just kind of reimagines what you know and love, right? So that's really up to you. But overall, I enjoyed my time with Moana, and I think there's a lot to still appreciate here. The film looks beautiful. The music is just as memorable. As I was saying, like Catherine Laga is absolutely is an absolute star. She embodies everything that makes Moana such a beloved character while bringing enough of herself to make this performance feel fresh. More than anything, she is the reason for you to see this film 100% because her performance as Moana, it's about her. She did a great job. That said, as we were talking about before, I cannot help but feel like there could have been a little room for an adaptation quality of it all. Like I can appreciate how faithful it recreates the animated film. I just kept waiting for it to surprise me at some point. And in a meaningful way, maybe in the story, like I had said, like I clung to that, like maybe Moana and Maui's destinies are tied together and they've been destined for each other for forever. Instead, it just plays with things and is incredibly safe. Like it doesn't do much with it. And by the end, I was left wishing it had taken a few more creative risks. And for me, that starts with Maui. Dwayne Johnson performance isn't bad, far from it, but recasting that role with a new actor could have immediately given this adaptation its own identity. Much like
Mhm.
Catherine making Moana completely her own, I think Maui deserved the same opportunity. It could have been the first step towards making this feel like more than just a live action recreation. You know, so if you're looking to experience one of Disney's best modern animated films in a new format, I think you'll have a great time. But if you're hoping this adaptation expands the world or offers a new perspective on the story, you may walk away wanting a little bit more. And that's how I felt. So I'm going to be giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 Hearts of Tafiti.
Well, that's it for our review for Moana, the latest live action adaptation for Disney Studios. Again, a huge thanks to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for inviting us out to see this movie early for review. But hey, we want to know what you think. We want to know your thoughts on this film when it hits theaters July 10th. So feel free to reach out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter or X at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Now, keep in mind, we have a variety of different reviews out now on podcast feeds for you to enjoy, like our spoiler-filled thoughts for Supergirl, our spoiler-free thoughts for X-Men 97 Season 2, Episodes 1 to 4, and our spoiler-free thoughts for Disney and Pixar's Toy Story 5. We also have some great interviews out now for you to enjoy, like our latest Behind the Geeks episode with the cast and creators of Disney Pixar's Hoppers. I had the chance to sit down with director Daniel Chung and producer Nicole Paradis Grindle, as well as the voices of Mabel and King George, Piper Curta, and Bobby Moynihan. That's available on podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric. So be sure to go check those out. We are amidst the hot geeky summer. We are excited for what the tail end of July is going to bring for us into August. We're looking forward to it. Lots to talk about. So be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, if you like what we're doing, feel free to give us a 5-star review. That really helps with sharing Geekcentric to the rest of the world. And we are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free review. And as we say,
Laters.
peace.
Chee-hoo!